Hey, sports fans, this is Robert with WTP Sports Dudes coming on live tonight because tomorrow we all know it's Texas versus Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry. I'm rolling with my horns as usual. The series, man, is, let me check this out real quick. The series is 120 meetings. This will be the 120th game between Texas and Oklahoma. Texas leads the series 63 to 51 with 5 ties. Let's make it 64 Texas Longhorns. As you all know, usually the two teams want to come into this, well, not usually, they want to come into this game undefeated. But of course, we all know Texas is undefeated and ranked number one in the country, and Oklahoma is ranked 18th in the country, and they have one loss. And I know they want to play spoiler tomorrow when they face Texas at 3:30 on ABC. Now, we all know, if we've been watching college football, that Texas has been playing some really, really good football. And Oklahoma has been playing some decent football, but Oklahoma has had some issues with a lot of injuries. I think they have 6 wide receivers who are hurt and out for the season. I think they get one of their wide receivers back tomorrow, and he'll be playing, but he'll be limited in action because I think he's only about 95%. He's not 100% for this game. And I really do think that Texas has a really good chance of winning this game in the Red River rivalry. Now, this rivalry, in my opinion, is the best rivalry in the country. I'm not trying to slight Ohio State and Michigan. I'm not trying to slight Army Navy. I'm not trying to slight any other rivalries. But when you look at this Texas and Oklahoma rivalry, they play in the Cotton Bowl, and the field is split right down the middle. One side of the stadium is crimson and cream. The other side is burnt orange and white. It looked like you in a home game when you're on one side of the field. It looked like you at an away game on the other side of the field. That is incredible. It is so incredible that when those two teams come out of the tunnel, it's usually Oklahoma on the side of where they come out of the tunnel. The Oklahoma fans are on that side. So when Texas comes out the tunnel, you hear all the boos, all the name calling, and all that crazy stuff, right? But then once they get to about the 30-yard line, then you start to hear them Texas cheers for them Longhorns coming out, right? And then when they get to the 50-yard line, it's even stronger. And then once they get across the 50-yard line, all you hear is cheers, throwing up the horns. Man, listen, it is incredible. The atmosphere is incredible. And it's on my bucket list because I haven't been yet. But guess what? I'm going within the next 3 to 5 years. I'm going to the Red River rivalry because I got to see my Texas Longhorns play those Oklahoma Sooners. As we all know, Steve Sarkisian is in his 4th season at Texas, and he's already taken 2 losses to Oklahoma. Their first meeting, Texas was beating Oklahoma pretty badly, 28-7, but Oklahoma came all the way back and ended up beating Texas. I think it was 54-48. That game was incredible. If you ever seen that game or the highlights, that game was incredible. And then the following year, in Steve Sarkisian's 2nd year, the Texas Longhorns routed the Oklahoma Sooners 49-0. That was Brent Venables' first year as the coach of the Oklahoma Sooners. No, that was his 2nd year. No, let me think. Yeah. That was his first year as the coach of the Oklahoma Sooners. This is his third year, and Steve Sarkisian's fourth year. But in his second year, Brent Venables led his Oklahoma Sooners to a 34-30 win over Texas, going on the last drive of the game and winning the game over Texas. Man, that game was an incredible game, and that put um, Oklahoma up 2-1 over Steve Sarkisian. So he's trying to even the score this year with this number one ranked team in the country, the Texas Longhorns. It is really going to be an exciting game. Oklahoma has a lot of injuries. If you look at their injury report, I think they have like 6 wide receivers that are hurt. That's really going to hurt them in this game. And they don't really have a very good running game. They're only averaging 128 yards rushing a game. That's not really good. I mean, Texas isn't averaging a whole lot more. I think they're averaging like 178. But whenever those two teams match up, you can almost throw the stats out the window because there's so many ebbs and flows in that game. It's incredible. It's an incredible atmosphere. Like I said earlier, half the field is crimson and cream, and the other half of the field is burnt orange and white. One side of the field, you feel like you're at a home game. The other side of the field, you feel like you're in a visitor stadium and they cussing you out. But this rivalry is unbelievable. Unbelievable. This rivalry, if you look at the on the screen at the notes, Texas leads this series 63-51 with 5 ties. This will be the 120th meeting between these two schools, and it's been incredible. Now, here lately, maybe in the last 30 years, Oklahoma's won a lot more of those games in the last 30 years. And Texas is trying to change that around and get some wins because there was a time when Oklahoma was so dominant and Texas was down because they just weren't recruiting on a high level. And even when they were, Oklahoma was always finding a way to win those games, just like the 2 victories that they got on Steve Sarkisian now. They found a way to win those games when Texas, I believe, had the better team on both of those seasons. But we'll see what it's going to be like tomorrow at 3:30 when those 2 teams kick off. I really do believe that Texas is going to take control of this game early and win it pretty convincingly. I really don't think that Oklahoma has the team right now to compete with the Texas Longhorns. So if you look at Oklahoma offensively, they're starting a true freshman quarterback after benching their second-year quarterback. And we don't have a whole lot of tape on this young man. He's very dynamic with his legs, but he's not a really, really big football player. He's a kind of short guy, and I think that he's going to have a hard time throwing behind his lineman. He's going to have to get out of the pocket and make some plays. I also believe that Oklahoma's going to have a tough time running the football because, like I said earlier, their offensive line really isn't where it needs to be. They got I think they got all new starters on that offensive line, 5 new starters. I think they lost all of their linemen either to another team in the portal or they graduated. So they're going to have a tough time against Texas defensive line tomorrow, in my opinion. I mean, I'm a homer because I like the Texas Longhorns, but I still believe that we're going to be able to control this game and win it. Texas's defense is only allowing an average of 7 points a game, and Oklahoma is scoring 28 points a game. So I do believe that that's pretty lopsided because Texas isn't giving up a whole lot, and Oklahoma really isn't scoring a whole lot. Their offense has been it hasn't been the strength of their team. We all know that their defense is the strength of their team. They're averaging 161 yards passing and 128 yards rushing. That's not even 300 yards of total offense. So they're going to have to really, really get it together if they think they're going to win this game tomorrow. But this is one of those games where you can almost throw the stats out the window because these two teams, when they match up, it's so many ebbs and flows in the game that you just never know who's going to come out on top. But I do believe that Texas is the better team, and they probably will become victorious tomorrow. I'm not sure if LevelUpSports10 and my man City League TV are going to join this broadcast or not. I sent out the link, so they might be joining. But if not, that's cool. They can enjoy their Friday evening and relax with their family. Let me see. So in this game, Oklahoma will be the home game and Texas will be the visiting team. So Oklahoma will be in their crimson jerseys and Texas will be in, I believe, all white. So I'm anxious to see how this game is going to go tomorrow. I really believe that both of those teams, after having a bye week, had a lot of time to prepare to get some guys healthy and to get out there and play. So hopefully we'll get a good game tomorrow at 3:30 on ABC. One thing that I do want to talk about Texas's offense is Quinn Ewers will be coming back off of the injured reserve for the first time in 4 weeks. He's almost been off for a whole month after getting injured in the who did they play? Man, I can't remember who that was they played. I think it was UTSA. He got hurt in that game, and then he was out against Mississippi State, and he was out against another game. So he's been out 2.5 games. So hopefully, no, maybe it was a game and a half. So hopefully he'll be ready to go come tomorrow. He's been out for 4 weeks nursing an injury he had to his rib cage. So hopefully he's ready to roll and to get back in that Heisman running. And I believe he will be. He always plays well against Oklahoma, even though his stats, he got 3 interceptions in the 2 meetings that he's had with them. He had 2 last year and then also a fumble, which really helped Oklahoma win that game because it really could have been a blowout by Texas if they didn't have those turnovers. But turnovers are part of the game. You got to give credit to the defense for making those turnovers happen. Also, I really do believe that Oklahoma is going to play really, really good defense tomorrow, at least for the first half in that game, because they have a really, really, really good defensive unit. They are 3rd in the country in a turnover margin. So they create a lot of turnovers. And that's something that they've been able to do against Texas the last few years. Well, at least last year anyway. The year they got beat 49-0, I think they got 1 interception of Quinn Ewers in that game, and that was Quinn Ewers trying to throw the ball away. But I really do believe that Oklahoma's defense will keep them in the game, at least in the first half. But the second half, they're probably going to be too burnt out because they're probably only 1 deep at every position where they're really good at 1 deep. But in the second string, whenever they have to put those guys in, because that game is going to be so emotional, those guys are going to have to come in and play, and they're not going to be ready for that Texas talent offensively and defensively. And they're starting a freshman quarterback for Oklahoma. Pretty good athlete. But he's going to have to use his arm in this game, and he doesn't have the receivers that he normally has because like I said earlier, he has 6 wide receivers that are hurt. He's going to have Brennan Thompson, who is a transfer from Texas, who actually went to Texas his freshman year, but transferred after that season to Oklahoma. So this will be his second year at Oklahoma. So hopefully he gets some burn. I'm rooting for Brennan Thompson to have a good game and to perform well because he's a really, really good kid, and I like to see him do well out there. Now, I don't want him scoring no touchdowns, though. He can catch some passes and get some yards, but no touchdowns, bro. No touchdowns. Also, their running game really isn't that good. They haven't had a really, really good running back this year that's shown up. Even though they got 3 guys that tote the rock for them, none of them have really been running the ball really well. Like I said earlier, they're only averaging 128 yards a game rushing the football, and that's not Oklahoma-like. They run a spread offense, but they do like to run the football, and they usually run the ball pretty well. And they are passing the ball for 168 yards a game. So that's not a lot of offense. That's not even 300 yards total offense. But they only have that one loss, I believe, to Tennessee. That's their only loss this season. So, I mean, they're doing something right. So hopefully, Texas's offense will be able to penetrate that defense and get some things going. I think defensively, Texas will be able to slow Oklahoma down to a crawl. I don't think they're going to be able to do a whole lot against Texas defense, but you never know. You never know. In this game, there's so many ebbs and flows in this game that anybody could win it. So hopefully, Texas will come out on top in this game. I had a whole lot of other stuff I wanted to talk about this game. And Oklahoma is averaging 28 points a game. And Texas is only giving up 7 points a game. So that doesn't bode well for Oklahoma scoring-wise. Oklahoma is, like I said earlier, is passing for 168 yards a game. And Texas is only giving up 126 yards passing a game. And Oklahoma is rushing for 128 yards a game. And Texas is only giving up 106 yards rushing a game. It's going to be very important that Texas controls their rush lane integrity. They can't afford to let this quarterback get out of the pocket on them or get any of those running lanes like they allowed Dillon Gabriel to do last year. Dillon Gabriel really hurt Texas last year with his legs. He passed the ball decently, but he really hurt Texas with his legs. He was extending drives when he was running the football, and it's going to be imperative that Texas linebackers stay in position and stay where they can keep this guy corralled. Texas has 2 really, really solid linebackers in Anthony Hill and David Bender. Both of those guys can run. So with them being able to run like they can, they should be able to contain this freshman quarterback and keep him from hurting them with his legs. But the flip side of that is we know Quinn Ewers isn't going to be trying to run the ball too much. He's going to hand it off to his running backs and let them do the bulk of the carrying. But the issue with Oklahoma's defense, even though they got 2 solid linebackers, those guys are heavy linebackers in their 240s. That's pretty heavy for a linebacker whenever you're playing a team that has a lot of speed. And Texas has a lot of speed, and those linebackers are going to have a tough time trying to corral Jaden Blue, Trey Wisner, especially if they get on the edges, because those guys are just too heavy, not fast enough to keep up with those burners at the running back position. And Texas loves to get their running backs out of the backfield in the passing game. So that's going to put a lot of pressure on Stutzman and the other linebacker that they have. Oklahoma has a pretty solid defense, though. like I said earlier, they have the third-ranked defense in terms of turnover margin. So they're really good on defense in terms of taking the ball away. They're very opportunistic. They got a ton of turnovers this year, and that's what's kept them in a lot of their games, and it's helped them to win a lot of their games. So if Texas can take care of the ball, they can probably beat Oklahoma pretty easily because talent-wise, I think it's a large disparity. Oklahoma's talent in comparison to how talented Texas is. And Texas has some serious speed at the wide receiver positions, and they got some serious speed at the running back position. And they got a veteran quarterback who has played in this offense for 3 years. And before he got injured, he was chewing it up. He was tearing it up. He was really balling out. He was really at the top of the Heisman Trophy talks. And I'm talking about Quinn Ewers, the quarterback for the Texas Longhorns. So hopefully tomorrow he'll be starting to, well, we know he's going to be the starter tomorrow. Hopefully he can go the whole game, finish it, and finish it strong. And he's had two really, really good games against the Oklahoma Sooners. Last year, even though he threw 2 picks and he fumbled, which really hurt Texas, his stats was really good. I think he completed 19 or 20 passes in a row, really did a really good job of getting Texas back in the game. Just he had 2 poor interceptions that he threw. One on the very first drive of the game, very first play of the game, I believe. He threw an interception, and then later on in that first quarter, he threw another pick when Texas was going into the end zone. So if we can take care of the ball, we can definitely beat Oklahoma pretty badly. Oklahoma's third down efficiency is really, really bad. They're 18 or 68 completing third downs. That is not good. 18 or 68. That means 50 times they did not get a first down on third down. That's really not good. Now, I can see if they was getting a whole lot of first downs on second down, or they was going for it a lot on fourth down and getting the first down, but that's not the case either. So Oklahoma really is going to have to improve in that area, because if Texas gets them in third and long with the defensive backs that they have and the pass rush that they have, it's going to be a long night for that young quarterback. I got to remember what his name is. I had his name on the tip of my tongue, but can't think of it right now. But anyway, I really do believe Texas has a really good chance of blowing this game wide open. Their very first meeting in the SEC, which is going to be a meeting that's going to take place every year. This is going to be a rivalry game that's not going anywhere. It's always going to be in existence. And like I said earlier, this will be the 120th meeting between these two teams. And Texas leads that series 63 wins to 51 losses by ties. So Oklahoma has a lot of work to do to catch up with those Texas Longhorns. Now let's talk a little bit about Texas' offense against Oklahoma's defense. There really wasn't a whole lot to talk about Oklahoma's offense against Texas's defense, because Oklahoma's offense really isn't that good, in my opinion. It's really not that good. Like I said before, they're averaging 168-yard pass and then 128 yards rushing. That's a little over 300 yards. No, that's not even 300 yards. So, that's 296 yards. That's not good. That's not good if you're only averaging 296 yards a game, where Texas is averaging 500 yards a game. So that's almost 200. That's over 200 yards more than Oklahoma. So Texas offense against Oklahoma's defense. And every year since we've had Steve Sarkisian as our head coach, Texas has been able to score points against Oklahoma, and they've been able to get many, many, many yards against Oklahoma. And I don't see any difference tomorrow when those two teams meet. I believe Texas will gain a whole lot of yards and score a whole lot of points. So I really do believe that Texas is going to do that. Oh, that's my man, LevelUpSports10. He's letting me know that he's moving around, but he's watching UT by 14. If UT wins by 14, they definitely will be close to covering. I think the spread right now is 14 and a half. So that's just a half short of what they're going to be. But back to Texas' offense against Oklahoma's defense. Oklahoma's defensive secondary is really good. They got a solid defensive line, and they got some really good linebackers. When you look at Stutzman at the linebacker position, he is really, really good. Really, really good linebacker. In fact, he leads the SEC in tackles. So anytime you're leading the SEC in tackles, that means you can handle your business. You're getting a lot of tackles. And when a linebacker is getting a lot of tackles, that's what you want. You just don't want your safeties getting a lot of tackles. That means teams are getting past your linebackers. But they do have a really good linebacker, but a really good safety as well in Billy Bowman. Billy Bowman is a really, really opportunistic safety. He picked Texas off last year when Texas was going into the end zone. He's really opportunistic. He's really good in coverage. He doesn't have the speed that, like Texas wide receivers have. So he's going to have a little bit of issue there. But I do believe that Oklahoma has a good enough defense to keep them in the game in the first half. Second half, it might be curtains because Texas speed and Steve Sarkisian's offensive play calling is dynamic. So those guys are going to have a really tough time slowing Texas down once Texas gets rolling. And it's very important that Texas start this game fast. Last year, their first drive, they threw an interception. Then they got a touchdown on a block punt, a recovery by not Anthony Muhammad, but by Malik Muhammad in the end zone. And then Texas was driving again to score, and that's when Billy Bowman got his interception and kept Texas from scoring. Then also they stopped Texas on first and goal, second and goal, third and goal, and then on fourth and goal. That would have been another time that Texas could have scored. That's 2 times in the red zone last year that Texas should have got points. And last year they lost by 4 points, 34-30. With those 14 points, Texas could have won that game pretty easily over Oklahoma. But that's why you play the games. And that's why anytime these two teams meet, you almost can throw the stats out the window. You can almost throw everything out the window because these two teams are going to come and play hard because neither one of them want to be the team that leaves the stadium without the gold hat. Everybody who's playing in that game want to get that gold hat, but only one team can get it. And hopefully this year it'll be my Texas Longhorns. Last year was the Oklahoma Sooners. So hopefully Texas can get that gold hat back and bring it home. Also, I think that Oklahoma is going to have a really tough time stopping Texas wide receivers. Texas wide receivers are really, really fast. Really fast. And I believe that Oklahoma's defensive backs are going to have a hard time trying to cover Texas wide receivers. Those guys are shifty, they're fast, and they can really get deep. And I think that Oklahoma is going to have a hard time keeping those guys from getting over their head. So hopefully, Texas can pull out that victory tomorrow and bring home the thing. That's about all I really have about the Oklahoma and Texas game. I'm looking forward to this game tomorrow. Hopefully, Texas can continue to be undefeated. Then they got Georgia after that. So they got a pretty tough couple of weeks because they got Oklahoma tomorrow, then Georgia, then Vanderbilt, then a bye game. Now, I know I threw Vanderbilt in there, and you're probably thinking, Vanderbilt? Hey, Vanderbilt ain't no slouches. They got a pretty good team, and we've seen how they beat Oklahoma last week or the week before, whenever it was. So you just it was last week. So you just never know what might happen in any of those games. So if you get a chance, check us out in the morning. We'll be on 8 a.m. and we'll be doing the 12-team playoff, which we had some moves in the 12-team playoff. Some teams fell out, some teams got in. So we're going to go over that tomorrow. We had a lot of shifting where some big 10 teams moved up and some SEC teams fell down. Even though they're still in the 12-team playoff at this point, there's been a lot of movement. And I really, truly believe that there's going to be a lot of movement every week until we get to the final stage of where we know who the 12 teams are in the 12-team playoff. And I want to also talk about something tomorrow that I found out about the 12-team playoff, but I'll share that tomorrow. So I'm glad that you were able to catch on, come on to the show tonight. And as we were talking about Texas versus Oklahoma, hopefully Texas can get the win. My prediction is 38-10. So I'm hoping that Texas can go ahead and make that happen tomorrow. I really do believe they can because Oklahoma's offense really isn't that solid. They're starting a freshman quarterback. Their running game hasn't been good. And their offensive line is all new. And their wide receivers, like I said, they got 6 wide receivers that are hurt already this season. So without anything else to say, hook 'em.